We engage in authentic conversations about our weekly entrepreneurial goals while exploring business, failures, success, and personal growth.
We're going to continue to work and get better at this, so thanks for tuning in.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Our vision will highlight a diversity of guests who are creatives, industry leaders, and individuals creating positive change within our communities. Join the Our Vision podcast on our shared journey to becoming better humans. It's not only our vision, but it's your vision too.
FSU. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
The Our Vision.
Real good. Welcome, everyone, to the Our Vision podcast. We are at our milestone, episode 10. What do you think? Made it to 10.
We made it to 10.
The next one's going to be 100.
Oh, the milestone will be 100. I think
Yes.
50 would be a good one.
50 is a good one, too. 10, 50, 100, 500, 1,000.
I think those are good numbers.
Okay.
Nice round. Actually, we should do 47, 97. I wanted to start at 1,000 and work backwards.
But then when we get to 0, then we're in the negatives.
No, well, then we go
After
back.
that, then we go forward again.
Yep.
We just go forward and back.
Yeah.
Back.
That's what I wanted to do, but you weren't biting on that idea.
Sounds like a great idea, Joe.
I don't know.
I bet no one's doing it.
That's probably why I wanted to do it.
I know. So yeah, this is our 10th episode.
It is.
We're not stopping. This is going to be weekly, so hold us accountable.
Well, we're holding each other accountable.
Unless somebody dies, then we might have to take a little break.
No, because we're building.
No, we're going to keep going.
We're building.
If I die, let's make a pact right now. If I die, you got to keep this going. If you die, I'll keep it going.
All by myself with a little cutout of you next to me.
But we'll have, like, if one of us dies before the other, we'll bring in like a medium and try to contact whoever died and have them on the show. We'll have
we can go
first.
There's that palm reader down on
co-host
250.
Spirit.
We could go down there. You ever seen that? She's been
Yeah.
there for years. She or he, I don't know.
Yeah.
We should go there sometime.
Let's go.
I told you my idea of that.
Yeah.
Then not pay.
I've never been to a psychic. I don't think I'll ever go.
I don't think no, I don't think I've ever been to a psychic. No.
Anyway, anywho, here we go. All right, this is our 10th episode. So in this episode, we're going to talk about accountability, especially with what we're doing, this podcast. So we're going to keep it going weekly, 2 days a week, maybe more at some point, and hold ourselves accountable.
And not just for the podcast, but other things that we're working on.
Yeah.
So,
and I want to get into also the why we're doing this again. Kind of get into more detail about it so everyone knows like what the purpose of this is.
Yeah, because we're only 10 in. We're kind of still swimming around learning how to do this. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So for me, a big thing for me is it's kind of been on my mind. I've wanted to do something and kind of get out of my comfort zone. And like one of the big things for me is to get better at communicating. I think it's an area I lack. That's kind of an area that I lack in, and Joe excels in. That's why we work together too, because we work off of our different strengths in business and our partnerships.
Yeah, and even when it came to, because you were really wanting to do this before I was. I didn't even know I wanted to do it, but you started talking to me about it, and you just kind of took the lead. And next thing I know, we have mics and we're sitting here and we're trying to figure it out and make sure we have good audio on what's going to be the setup. And we start talking about it. And it's kind of like, even the podcast is very similar to our relationship and business. We don't agree. It's not that we don't agree in a way that it's confrontational. It's that we're both coming at it at two different ways of looking at this and a different set of goals of what we want to accomplish. But one of the things I noticed as we were developing this is that willingness to compromise is there in this project, and it is similar to when we do video production or photography or whatever we're doing, right? So that's interesting. So I want to explore that a little bit tonight with you, talking about that, some of the differences and why we're doing this also.
Yeah.
I know for you it is the communication.
It's communication. That's not the only thing. I think I want to also add value. So if there's anything we've learned or made mistakes with, hopefully others can take that and not make those same mistakes that we made. And learn from others too.
Yep. Or the added value too. So sometimes like we're working on something, hey, we're doing this, it's working for us. If anybody has a better suggestion, we can get that feedback and then also share some value of like we were on a shoot one time and this happened, or we're working with a client and this is happening, or we did a project and didn't have a contract and we talk about what those hiccups are so that other people can learn from those mistakes or have feedback and learn from them. So
what would you say, going back to, we both have different reasons and differences on why we're doing this? Can you give me an example of what you would say? We'll
start at the head of it. One is that you feel like you're doing it partially for getting better at communicating with others, or even just you and I sitting here and breaking down an idea, right? Not that if you're sitting quiet and you have time to think about it, you can break ideas down, but on the spot, sometimes it's harder for you, right? And vice versa for me. Sometimes I don't think when I should slow down before I break down the idea, right? But yeah, so the question from you was basically, what do I see as the differences of what we want to accomplish here? And I think our approach is different, but here to find out, as we talked a little bit before we got on for this episode, is that I'm excited to meet other people too, and so are you. I don't know that they're going to be the same type of people that we want to meet yet. That could shift because your interests are different than mine. That would be one area. But you're open enough to say, oh, yeah, well, absolutely, we'd have somebody in like that. So that works well for us. The other thing is that even though I think I'm a good communicator, I still think there's a lot of room for improvement. So, but I do recognize there's a difference between, sometimes I'm quicker to respond to things, right, than you are. That doesn't mean that I'm any smarter or better at it. It just, that's part of my personality, the way my brain works. So those are two areas that I can think of right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you agree with that or...
Yeah, I know what you're saying, where I like to sit back and think about a situation before.
Yeah, and that brings me to a great point about what you said about our strengths. Is there are times that sitting back and thinking about it is so valuable for our business and what we're doing, because there's you'll go 2-3 deep into something or another scenario. And I think one of the areas you've become better at over the last few years is not to let those other possibilities paralyze you, where that used to be and now you're starting to get to the point where, yes, this is a possibility, but you're more prepared in case something happens. So you're thinking deeper about the subject, but you're not letting that paralyze you. And that's one of the growth areas that I've seen about you over the last 3 years.
That's what I've kind of figured out in these 10 episodes of doing this, is if it's similar to what you're kind of stating, is that I'm good at bulleting out all my ideas to prepare and kind of running off of those and filling in the gaps in between.
Right. Yeah, you try to head things off.
Well, you're good, not to cut you off, Joe, but you're good at like we always say, winging it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable with
you can flow.
Right.
I get stuck. So, yeah, I mean.
But like I said, back to you, though, I've noticed that you've gotten better over this last few years where you don't let that paralyze your moving forward on a project or doing something. Where before, when we first started, it was like you would see this big picture and the possibility sometimes, and it would slow you down and hinder you. And I think we all have that a little bit.
Give me an example. 'Cause I want to understand.
So maybe
what
like
your point of view is.
Like the way we're going to communicate something to a client. Right. And it's not clear. And you might think, well, it might be this way and it might be this way. And it might be, I don't know what they're talking about, instead of just, hitting it head on and worrying about that later. Well, years ago, there was other situations like that where it would slow you down. And now I don't think you let it slow yourself down. And I think the reason that you don't do that anymore is because you've had enough experiences now with people where you're like, that's probably not even what they're thinking or saying, or even if they are, I can still work through those kind of issues.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
that's one area I've seen you improve on as far as planning and stuff. So that's and I think that's because we want to move forward.
And to compliment you back, I see where you've improved too, and you've improved more with detailed.
Yeah, because
thinking.
Yeah, because of you, because of what the business needs.
Yeah, so I think it goes hand in hand too. Like I've learned a lot from you. You've learned from me as well, and that's why it's good to have those differences, because I can learn from what you're better at. You can learn from what I'm better at, and then you become more of a complete person, I guess.
Yeah, well, and just because you're deficient in something doesn't mean you shouldn't try to do it. It's not. It's part of business, right? It's part of doing something and excelling. So I can't lean on, I'm not good at details, right? Like that only works for so much, right? We don't have anybody else here doing it, so I have to get better at details, right? Mm-hmm. Because I can't lean on you all the time for details. So part of that was that project we talked about earlier this week when I was setting up a new client leads list, like really breaking that down in a way that makes sense so we can keep track of it. Now, 5 years ago, I would have never done that. I would have just looked up 20 names, kind of scribbled on a piece of paper, and
we just picked up the phone and called them up.
off we're going without any research of the company, without anything, So I think part of that is wisdom with doing things over and over again, and part of that is being around somebody that has shown me the value in that.
So yeah, I mean, it comes back to getting out of our comfort zone and overcoming fears that we may have, and that comes back to this podcast because we're putting ourselves out in the public eye.
It's uncomfortable.
And it's uncomfortable, but at the same time, it's kind of cool because people can see a side of us that maybe they've never seen before.
Yeah, and they're absolutely. And
because a lot of people have no clue, because I'm like a quiet, kind of reserved individual. So, and there's things about you, like you were saying, that people have no clue about.
Yeah, so it's different than having a conversation with somebody, right? So we go outside and we have a conversation with somebody and we leave, right? So if we're talking to a neighbor or a business owner, or like tonight, we ran out. I was reading an article, and what was the Sandusky Living was a magazine that came out, and it was about stories in the history and different business owners. And while one of the business owners was what's his shop called?
We just ate today.
Mm-hmm. Superman, and we went up there and
Superman,
and. It's different than, so like, let's imagine if he's here with us having a conversation, or we're there having a conversation with him, right? There we walk away and nothing's recorded. Conversation's over. He goes about his day. We go about our day. But when you invite somebody here and we're doing a recorded podcast, that's really putting yourself out there. Every word that you're saying is recorded now for somebody to go back and listen to. And that thought is it's uncomfortable to me.
I have these weird moments, and I told you about this earlier, where mentally, so for example, during the day, I'm pumped. I'm like, yeah, this is going to be cool. This whole podcast thing's going to work out great. And then at night, my mindset just switches. And it's almost like a anxious, I wouldn't say depression. It's not depression. It's more anxiety induced, where I'm like, questioning it, and I'm like, do I want to put myself out there like this? And
I think that's kind of true with lots of things that we do in life, right?
Is this a bad idea?
Yeah, right. But
then the next morning it's the slate's wiped clean and I'm ready to get back at it. So
don't you think that happens a lot in life though, when you're trying to do a project or do something like, oh yeah, it's going to be great. And then you realize, oh, I hit a
Yep.
bump in the road, or this isn't going the way I thought it was going to be. It's not as easy to get a client. It's not easy to, So I think that's kind of true with a lot of things that we do. And you just have to like wipe out that negative thought and just keep moving forward, doing the best you can. And, if you're deficient in some area, learn, try to improve those skills and move forward, right? And that's what else you're going to do.
Yeah. So if anybody else deals with that, like share your experiences.
Well, I think it's important to keep people around you that hold you accountable, because that's what we're talking about here, is being accountable to this project or other projects.
And also it's good to be relatable too by talking about these things.
Yeah. I agree.
And that's
a good point.
I think it's a big reason why a lot of people don't go into business themselves, because it is a fear and you have those anxieties about screwing up or not being good enough. And I still deal with that all the time.
Oh yeah. Well, it's
just something that you have to cope with and find a way to cope with it and get through it. And
yeah, I felt that way last night when I was doing the shoot for a client.
Yeah.
I don't know if that aligns with what we're talking about here right now, but so I have a client that I've had for 2 years, and I went and photographed the graduation for nursing program. And you've seen the images today. They were on the screen, and I was at it, and you looked over a few times, and I got your opinion. But everything was fine. There's plenty of great photos in there, but the room is big. When you come in, the first time I came in, so it's this big like auditorium that's set up for graduations and ceremonies and things like this, right? And so the lighting's great when you first walk into the place, right? So the first time you go there, you're setting everything up. Oh, this is gonna be great. There's plenty of light. But then the graduation starts and the house lights drop. Didn't know that the first time. So I've shot enough to be able to adjust, of course, but it's not the same image, right? So I've gotten used to that. But last night I took C-stands and I set up Westcott lighting, and I bounced it, set it back, and it fills the room in a way that gives you a good acceptable image. But even with that, like we're talking about, like not being good enough. How much I've photographed over the last, since you've known me. And I started photography before you even knew me. And I still feel like there's times where I go to do work for a client that it's not good enough. And I got home and the photos were fine. They're very acceptable, and it'll be great for their promotion and for social media and other things that they're using it for.
But like you were saying, in certain situations like that, for instance, sometimes the environment that you're in is out of your control from a creative perspective, with like you're saying, the lighting, and it wasn't up to par with how you normally produce something when you're in control of your environment.
Right.
And it was, did you mention it was a graduation ceremony?
It was for a nursing program.
On the fly, you got to get the shots as they're happening.
Yeah, so they're, handing out awards, and, in this situation there was they were passing by 3 different individuals, shaking their hands. So there's a lot going on, and I'm the only photographer there capturing, X amount of people, right? But that goes down to, ultimately it goes down to experience, right? So the longer you do something, like you should feel more confident at it. And I did feel confident at it. Like it wasn't that I wasn't confident that I could overcome those things, but while you're there, you want to do a good job for the client. And that's always in my head, that little, like, I don't know, like almost like you're nervous. I've done how many of these things that I'm still getting nervous on some level, which is, I guess, good. It keeps you on your toes, but I don't know, does that make sense?
When you're on your own too. Like when I go into, here's an interesting thing from my perspective and my experiences, is like, if I go on a shoot with you or anybody else, I'm so comfortable. And for the most part, I am too, when I've met the customer and I know it has to be done. There's been instances where people have contacted me from like out of state to be a DP. And sometimes I'll question like myself. I'm like, Am I good enough for this?
Right. Yeah.
And it happens to this day, and I've been doing this for over 10 years now on my own. So,
and you made me think of that, talking about this limitation type thinking. So you like you were saying, like, we're really excited to do this podcast together, right? But then night comes and you're like, you hear these like, not negative kind of thoughts, right? And same thing, right? So
and bring it back to how to overcome those things from, like, again, from my perspective and my experience and how I cope with that stuff is I try to keep myself busy constantly doing something. If I don't, and I just sit back and take long breaks or whatever, it just sits in my head and eats away at me because I don't have anything to think about as far as like when I'm staying busy with work and being productive. I'm going out riding my bike, going on a hike, whatever. So
shoveling out in front. But for me, it's being open about that. Having somebody, like a business partner, a good friend like yourself or other people in my life to be able to like say that. You know what I mean? Like last night I got nervous. You know what I mean? Like I overcame all the obstacles that I needed to, but being able to talk that through sometimes helps me. Because like I like to just be me. Like I'm not trying to be a millionaire here. I'm trying to figure out how to make a living doing photography, video work, sales, this podcast, our real estate, buying another place. Like I'm not looking to be wealthy. I'm looking to have enough financial freedom to be able to not work all the time. Right.
Yeah. And that's what your version of success is.
Right. And that's different for everybody. Yep. Somebody might be doing this, they might want to make $1 million doing artwork or photography or video work. I just don't see me as that. I don't need to have that. Mm-hmm. But voicing that helps me. Being able to say what my limitations are, like where hey man, I'm like having trouble with this. Like working on that document the other day, it didn't work out the way I wanted it to, right?
Yeah.
But I'm okay with that. And I don't work. I was talking to somebody last night at the photo gig, and she works in an office. I said, I bet you're really good at doing Excel sheets and Google Sheets. She said, and the lady next to her, the doctor that has responsible for hiring me over there, says she's excellent and she deserves more money. Like that's a skill in itself. So give myself a little slack here to be able to learn how to set up these documents because that's not something I do every day, and eventually it'll probably pay us to have somebody else do that for us eventually.
Yes, I would love that in the future.
And that would be an easy virtual assistant job that we could hire out for $20 an hour, do that for a month or two and see what they come up with. So.
Yeah, I agree with you, Joe. And Joe and I come from very working class backgrounds.
Yeah.
We weren't wealthy. We're kind of lower to middle class kind of.
Yeah, there was
families. I would say my family was more between lower middle class.
My dad was a Ford worker, amongst other things until later in, earlier in life to then. And then my mother was an RN nurse, went to school it sounds like she went right out of high school and was a nurse her whole career. So we had what we needed for sure, but we definitely came from a middle class family.
I'm glad I experienced that. Like my dad worked in a machine shop. My mom would work off and on jobs like restaurants as a waitress, or she worked at Walmart and some other places. So, and going back to like my dad, he always made me earn what I wanted. He didn't give it to me. As soon as I was able to get a job, my first job was Cedar Point, actually.
Was it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
The chicken patio.
You might have told me that.
I had to pay for all my own shit. And I know, listen, there's people out there that have had it way harder than I have I've heard of kids taking care of their families.
But what you were saying is that he really made you pay for your car.
Didn't
he make you pay for your car insurance and things like
insurance.
That? Like right from the start.
I had to buy my own clothes. I had to, and they didn't buy me a lot of expensive clothing or anything. I just had very basic clothing.
Right.
Throughout my childhood, it wasn't anything extravagant.
See, we were.
But as soon as I got a job, I had to pay for all my own shit.
We were handed a lot of stuff.
Dad
and Mom gave us a lot of, thinking back now, how much money they spent on us was just, it's mind blowing.
Yeah.
I mean, we were, even when we were kids, doing skateboarding and all that, they were buying us airwalk pants and, and skateboards. And, so we were very fortunate to have what we had. But I also think there's a lot of value with what you just said, that your dad made you pay for your insurance,
He made me start early. Yeah. And it helped me a lot throughout life.
Because you do not look for a handout.
No.
You don't even look for a hand up sometimes.
And my dad has helped me a few times. You know, I have friends that their parents buy them brand new cars, and that never happened. Like he helped me get one of my first cameras, and that was huge for me. You know, to have help with that. So, but yeah, I mean,
that's a good point.
I was grateful coming from a family where he kind of put the responsibilities on my own back.
Yeah, I think
rather than having to depend on somebody else.
I think that has helped you greatly in life.
So, yeah.
It made you resourceful and make sure that you're responsible for your own, like whatever you have to acquire to make it. So, I don't feel like, I think that path for me was a lot different. And I wish I would have understood how much they were giving when I was a kid. Because I had even as a young adult, it took me until I was like in my late 20s to go, oh, geez. Like, wow. And the amount, like, also, in our family had the refrigerator full of food. And everybody that walked into the house, so all of our friends, they fed everybody. And it was like, no big deal. Now we buy food for ourselves, and I'm thinking, how the hell did they afford all this? You know, because it's costly.
That's the thing, too, is with my parents, we always had a meal on the table. It wasn't always the greatest food. Sometimes I was eating bologna sandwiches, and I mean, it wasn't always the greatest, but my mom always had a meal for us after school. And so... And there's a lot of people that don't have that, you know?
Yeah, we were very fortunate. We always had, and I don't ever remember a time I know I never went hungry. Like
my dad worked hard
to
provide for his kids and family, so thanks, Dad.
Yeah, well,
I learned a lot of shit from him, too.
Yeah, still learning.
So
not coming from that background. So also... I've done a lot of different things also until we got to this point of doing business like we're doing now. I've worked at gas stations. I worked at Cedar Point when I was a kid too. At some point, I worked at Damon's restaurant. I worked managing restaurants. I worked down in Florida building ships. I built fences. I've done mixed mud for mason. I ripped off roofs. I've done a lot of different things in my life. And one thing I've realized over this last couple years or few years is that, it's sometimes easier going into punch a clock. You don't have to think as much. You go in, you do what they expect, sometimes under what they expect, and they still give you a paycheck, right? Yeah. And then when you're trying to make your own money and figure out how to, I don't want to say hustle a few dollars, but that's basically what you're doing is you're selling yourself or selling your service or creating a product that has a good return on investment for the individual that's buying that product from you. Is like, that's a much harder gig sometimes than to just go punch a clock. It doesn't surprise me that you said you doubt yourself sometimes, and so do I, because we don't come from that background. I did not come from a background where people were doing their own business. So that conversation was not even in the home. Not that they're opposed to it. It's just not the way they thought. Right.
I had family members that...
But you did, right?
had businesses, but they never taught me anything. And I wasn't a part of that world. So I wasn't like their kid.
Right.
So my dad could have totally started his own business. And he's told me in the past that he had considered it before he had kids. But then he had kids at a young age. And he had to make sure that he was providing, so...
Yeah, it's a big jump in a risk if you don't come from that.
Yeah.
That makes sense, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I can understand that. It's not like, especially right now in life, I don't have those worries. So I can, it's just me taking care of me, so...
But it's okay. There's nothing wrong with being employed.
No.
And I don't want to, give anyone that impression, because... There's a lot of responsibility owning your own business. There's a lot of responsibility being employed. But it is nice to have that comfort and be able to go in and get a paycheck on a weekly or every 2 week or monthly basis or whatever.
It just depends on what you want to do.
Because it's not always that way in business for yourself.
Me personally, I do not want to work 50 weeks.
I like
to get 2 off,
Yeah. I'd rather take on the worries of having a business.
This is the way I look at it, is that I would rather take on the different hats it takes to be able to create a business and entrepreneurship than to go work 50 weeks out of the year for somebody else. And if I have to do with less to build that up over time, I'm okay with that. So if there's some kind of sacrifice, whether that be that I have to work more hours to figure something out, where that would have been figured out by another employee and then I just use their process, great. That might work for people. But I'd rather earn my own money at this point.
Yeah, I'm just not made up that way to go and work for someone. I've never been that way. I have worked for people, I've had jobs, but it was never, as soon as I got out of high school is when it clicked. Because I wasn't the greatest high school student. I barely graduated high school. And it wasn't because...
I didn't graduate high school.
It wasn't because I was dumb or anything like that. It was because I didn't put any effort in. And I wasn't a big fan of like high school and all that. So...
But I am a fan of education though now.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with education.
No, I'm just saying like looking like I didn't graduate either, but like as far as education
and that's something
goes,
new that I didn't know about you, Joe.
Yeah, you didn't know that until...
I didn't know you didn't graduate high school.
That was just recent that you found that out. You've known me over a decade. So what I did was I dropped out of high school and I was a credit and a half away, regrettably, right? I'm dyslexic, blah, 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 blah. Fought all the way through high school to make it through, right? 10 years later, around there, went back and tested out of the GED, went back to college. Ended up working full-time and ultimately within the discipline 3.7 and 3.2 or 3.4 overall. So I do value education. I did not value it though when we were in high school. It was difficult.
Yeah,
I didn't have a lot of help making it through because I was dyslexic. And then I had also had made some poor choices in life or some decisions in life that had forced me down some paths that probably wouldn't have happened otherwise. But wouldn't take it back, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so, like you're saying, like you after high school, something switched for you.
Yeah, for me, like in high school, throughout high school, I didn't build a lot of relationships. I didn't have a lot of friends. I was a quiet kid, kind of shy, and I just never looked forward to going to school. And fast forward, as soon as I got out of high school, it clicked for me. I'm like, because I've always been a hands-on type of person, you know, like getting my hands dirty and also I was kind of a creative person. I like to draw. I liked art. But as soon as I got out of high school, it clicked for me. I was like, I got to do something with my life because I never had any guidance growing up, like with like parents talking about the future and going to college or what am I going to do with my life? It was like I came from that working class family, and same as you did.
Yeah.
And it was like, as soon as you're out of high school, get a job and provide for yourself, you know, whatever you got to do. So as soon as I got out of high school, it clicked for me. And I was like, I got to do something with my life. My first job out of high school was Lowe's. I worked in the corral, like loading cars up with landscaping blocks and mulch and all that. And then I got a job at a vending company and eventually became a supervisor. But it wasn't for me. I didn't enjoy it. I was kind of miserable at the job. And that's when it clicked. And I was like, I'm going to go to college. Because I knew I wanted to do something creative. And I explored the different areas. And I was like, I think I would enjoy graphic design or getting something into art related.
And you were saying it's creative. But it's interesting, too, to me, is like we don't live in an area predominantly, right, that is real creative. Like, let me explain myself a little better. Northeast Ohio is not
known for its culture,
you know, especially around here, right?
Yeah.
So doing something different like that also means stepping out a little bit too, right? And I remember the first time I was doing night photography in our own little town where I live, where my parents live, and the officer stopped me and said, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm doing photography at night." And, you know, he was just, that was suspicious. You know, I'm thinking, had I been like, I don't know, if I'd have been in Miami somewhere, right, probably nobody would have bothered me. Gone about my business. They'd have just left me alone. So, but yeah, so doing something creative. I agree with you. I love when we create something for somebody or even ourselves, right? I think,
and even in school, my favorite classes were gym and art. Art class was like my space away from the rest of what was going on in school.
and it's hands-on again too. So you're creating something.
It's hands-on. I can think creatively, use my imagination.
So how does that carry over with the video work now?
Okay. So getting into video, I had no clue that I was going to do video or get into filmmaking or have any interest in film. Yes, I had always been interested in movies and films. When I was a kid, I kind of came back to what I loved as a kid. I loved movies as a kid. I loved special effects.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
And I was big into horror movies, and I love the special effects that they used for like makeup and all that for horror movies and all the other special effects that they use in action movies. And I was like, man, that'd be cool to do. But I didn't know where to start to get into something like that.
There wasn't a bunch of that around here.
And there was no one in my family that
Right.
kind of had that. I loved it. And like I said, I wasn't one of those kids that found my calling at an early age, and I had to find it later on in life. So I took up graphic design. That's what I went to college for, where I met you. And then, so it was multiple disciplines. It was graphic design, print, multimedia, photography, and video.
Yeah.
And so we had video, and I just fell in love with it.
And then I came back.
Very basic.
I came back to Florida and kicked the door open and started messing with people. And I gave zero cares about anything really. Let's do this, have a good time.
I knew exactly what you were doing the first time I met you, Joe.
I'll never forget that one.
But there were some kids that
no clue. We'd come up, like I was working in the labs, and I'd come up and they'd be working on something. I'm like, are you gonna leave it like that? And I'd be kidding with them. They'd get all concerned, try to figure out how they could make it better. No, I had a great time there.
Yeah.
I mean, I met a bunch of great people there, and I'm very happy to still know some of those individuals that came out of those programs.
Yeah, to
and,
this day, I'm still good friends with a lot of people.
There are several people who are not working in the industry at all under any of those disciplines that you just named, and there are some that are still working in those disciplines and doing quite well for themselves.
Yeah. It seems like most are.
Yeah. Some of the ones that we were closest with,
like
were
you and I are.
Schaefer,
like Andrew, Travis, Sarah,
Justin, Sarah. Yeah. I mean, they're all using parts of that to do their. Yeah.
And
Sloan,
a number of other students too that are still doing, focusing on their careers from college.
And so you went back to your kind of roots, is what you're saying. Like,
yeah.
As far as like you found something that you enjoyed, you're like, oh, wait a minute, you can make money doing this, right? Mm-hmm. So you're like, oh, I can make a living doing this. So you kind of went back to that.
As soon as I finished, I was like, God damn it, I could have done this without getting. Thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of dollars in
debt. We could make a whole podcast about how we feel about student loans and about what the education that is promised. We could go through all that, but you and I decide, and we will. And I think we're going to have a very serious conversation about that. But for the most part, we've moved past that in life. We do not focus on it, and we're zeroed in on some other projects that we're working on now. And
I don't let that bog me down and worry me, because again, like, look at the people we've met. We've met some very expensive friends, let's just say that.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, and you coming in was different than me coming in. So let me just explain that a little bit. You were looking to get into graphic design. That was a focus. You're like, oh, I want to do something more creative. I came back from West Palm Beach. I was working audiovisual for the Marriott system. I had 2 ballrooms, 10 breakout rooms, and I was doing, that's a whole nother story in itself. I had no clue what I was doing. The job was handed off to me by somebody else. My daughter's mother was had a reoccurrence of cancer, and so I decided to come back here for family reasons, right? So I get back here, and we live in a very industrial Rust Belt kind of area, right? And I go, right when I get back, we have the crash. So I'm going down Butler Road or Baumhart Road there where the Lorraine Ford plant was. And it was the first time, that's where my father worked. It was the first time I'd ever seen that plant parking lot empty. That's how, I mean, it was just, they were closing the plant. You look across the street, and literally the day I went by, Brad, there's a lean-to there. And I know you've heard me tell this story before, I think, haven't you?
I think so.
There's a lean-to there, and it's raining, and there's 4 guys sitting underneath the UAW hall there, or whatever that little building is. And I went, oh, shit. So it's like late winter, no leaves. It's gray. I just came back from, living on near the ocean, and I get back and I'm like, what am I going to do? And, in the news we're hearing everything's plummeting, the stock market's dropping, housing market's falling out, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I don't even know what to do. You know what I mean? Like, where am I going to work? Like, what's going to go on? So, speed ahead, I ended up poking around. I'm like, well, computers. My dad was real big into computers. So I figured I need to do something along those lines, right? So then I found that program. And I had friends that had gone through that program. Julie had gone through the program.
Your friend, Julie, in Michigan?
Yeah, prior to me. So I had talked to her, and then Lisa, the director, was still teaching there. And I went, they had a good thing to say about it. I'll go do that I thought it was going to be like 2 or 3 years. I was there for 5. And that's how I ended up there. Because it just basically hiding out from the economic crash that we were seeing in this area, because it did shift a whole bunch around here. A lot of our factories were taking in new workers, and they were doing second-tier pay scales, and it was just kind of crazy time for Northeast Ohio here. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you're right. They were expensive. It was an expensive learning. Not only the education I got, but the overall what higher ed was.
But again, it was a choice that we all made. Now, I'm totally against like the interest. If they would just remove the interest from our student loans, that's an entirely different subject.
Yeah. And
a whole other road to go down. But I made the choice. You made the choice. Everybody else did.
Yeah, whether you knew what the impact would be, you still made that choice. Yeah. You're an adult at that point, and I was definitely an adult man when I made that choice.
So I was a little naive at the time, being in my early 20s, and I didn't look deeply into it. I was just like, oh, they're going to pay for me to go for now, and it's all fine and dandy. And
but look at us now, though. Look what it's given us the opportunity to do.
Yeah. Yep.
We laugh. There's been a few times we've laughed. There is no reason we should have received the amount of monies we've made through the company at times with the processes that we had going. That proves to me right there. One time you looked at and I'm not going to say it, but you looked at the contract. You're like, this contract isn't good. I'm like, and we won't drop the number. But I said, how much did you make off that? How much did they pay you from that contract? And you're right, the contract needs improved, but it's a pretty good chunk, So that's also cracked me up over the years, is like how we've made money off of something that we enjoy doing, and that we've taken the time to learn and hone our craft a little bit, right? And we're continually learning. And I'm like, we've messed up and still made money. So now that our focus is like trying to make the process better and do something every day, I think this next few years are going to look a lot different than they would look the first 10 years, right?
Yes.
It's crazy to think about what we were able to accomplish with very little understanding in some of those other business processes. So anyways, I don't know why that came in, but that's to me, it's hilarious.
What were we talking about?
Oh, we were talking about we got onto the school and how we ended up there, and how we ended up into something creative.
Yeah.
And it goes back to it goes back to today. What I said to you was like, look at, we have a lot more to accomplish, right? There's many, many more steps of what we need to do, right? But what we have accomplished in 10 years is, to me, pretty good compared to where we've come from.
Yes.
I'm happy with what we've done.
It's rewarding.
Yeah. It's been, do I feel like we need to do more work? Yeah, that hit me today a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, there's some more steps that I need to do even this week.
Yeah.
And I think I wanted to talk a little bit about that tonight too, is that, the previous podcast we were talking about setting up that client base sheet. I didn't get as much on there as I should have this week. You know what I mean? I just didn't do it. So it's set up. I showed you what I've got set up, and we're happy with what's like the format.
But you did something.
I did something.
You didn't blow it off.
No. And
just your personal goal of what you wanted to achieve.
I thought I would have had like 3 or 4 of our target audiences, at least like 60, 80 in each one of those.
What would you say the reason for that was?
I think
why didn't you achieve the goal that you wanted to achieve to this point?
I underestimated like how long it would take me to at least figure out how to lay it out. And then I underestimated, like when I brought the data in, I using a data scraper. So when I brought it in, like the columns were switching over. I figured out that I was able to eliminate some of the information I didn't need, right? But when I did that and I brought them in, I wasn't catching that everything was sliding over. So I had to go back through and delete it. And then I started, anyway. So it came down to my inability to understand how to get the information on the sheet, right? And then my personality, I got down the rabbit hole of doing all the research. So then I started going through all their websites and like, oh, is this client really going to be somebody that needs what we have to offer? Because that's the other thing about you and I feel like. I'm not just trying to sell somebody. I'm trying to find somebody that we can create XYZ and we know it's going to be good for them, right? And so that takes time to go through those websites and see if they have a need or we think they have a need based on our abilities, right?
When you say good for them, what do you mean by that?
Well, like a ROI, like a return on investment, or we know that they need to do this because it'll help their search engine optimization. It'll give a clearer understanding for their clients to understand what they do.
I understand.
So going through all that. And so I think I got sidetracked on, that's part of it, right? I need to do that. But what I wasn't doing while I was going through all that, I found some that were really good. I didn't carry them over to a sheet to say, these are the ones we're going to contact. So I got kind of like, I don't know. So that's what I mean by I wish I had done better at, what would it be, time management.
Okay.
So I don't think I was good on time.
I know you weren't feeling that great today.
Today I did not. I had a terrible headache. So I
wouldn't, sometimes you got to take a little step back when you're not feeling great.
Because of what's today? What is today? Wednesday?
Yeah, I think so.
So, yeah, I think I'm a little disappointed that my time management wasn't utilized better. Because I know how valuable that is to us. 2 or 3, getting to the point where we can have 5 or 6 more clients on top of what we have, it really ultimately impacts our financial ability to move forward on other projects that we're doing. So I know the value of it, right?
And I know you take it seriously, and I know you'll get to it. So
yeah,
I'm not worried at that one bit.
So I shifted gears. I didn't get all that on there, but then I started realizing, oh, wait a minute, I haven't done many cold calls before. I don't know if you've ever done that.
Me? Come on, Joe. You know better than that.
Well, I'm just saying, like I've not done much of that, but I'm willing to learn how to be better at doing that, right? So I started researching that. Like, what does that look like? And people that are successful doing that. And so some of the ideas I had about that was that, especially in today's marketing, and I know this to be true, is that it's not like I'm trying to sell you this glass of water all the time. It's that, why is water good for the body? You know what I mean? I want to give value to this glass of water before I tried to sell it to you. So that was the other thing I started looking at, is how do we as content creators provide value to them before we sell them, right? So why does video work for you? What's it good for? Those kind of things. And we started those. We have those documents already. We started looking up those things. So we're going to go back to that and start to create marketing materials around that for our company, right? And cold call them. So that's what I did. I shifted gears a little bit today. I didn't get them all on there. I fell short of my goal, but I also realized that there were some holes there too that that goes back to the details. Not details where you're not doing anything, right? Because I can't sit in this form of gathering information and put it on the document and never contacting anybody. That doesn't help us. And I think we've gotten better at being actionable, right? Do something every day, be actionable. Oh, there's a client that we need to follow up with? Let's call them. Let's make sure we're on it. Not let it go 3 weeks and then it just, magically somebody else takes care of it. And nobody's going to do that, right?
That's a key word. It's taking action.
Yeah, and I know it's a pet peeve of yours.
Yeah. And I didn't always take action. And then I realized, that's one of the most important things in business is to just take action and do it. Don't think about it. Don't talk too much about it. Just do it.
Do it.
even if you fail at it,
Yeah.
you'll figure it out, down the road. You'll figure out how you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Whether that be cold calling or...
Well, then you start to realize once you start doing it, you're like, oh, this didn't work, or this did work. Maybe I need to do more of this.
Yeah.
But you don't know that.
Talk about some of the things you learned today about cold calling.
Well, cold calling was, you're going to be interrupted.
Which is something that we're going to start doing more of.
So
we haven't done a lot of that. We have done it, but
we started doing that through one branch that we're confident in.
In the education field, right?
Right.
Yep.
And we were well received. Nobody was nasty. They were amicable, but we started moving in here and we got away from that right now. But we're at a point where we need to get back to it. So what I learned today is basically even some of the best cold callers have a script. And that doesn't mean you have to sound contrived, right? You should still sound like it's not scripted, right? But you need a focal point like we do with our notes for the podcast, right? At least we have a place to go back to. The other thing is, and then I think this is one of the areas that I feel confident is I can build rapport with people quickly. And I don't know if you feel that way. You've sat next to me when I've talked to people on the phone. And you can't hear both sides, but you can tell that there's...
Yes,
like
that is a talent of yours for sure, Joe.
And it's not fake. It's just that I just want to talk to you.
Genuine,
right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was one area, like being genuine with people.
And I don't think if you weren't genuine, I probably wouldn't be working with you.
Well, I agree. I would be vice versa too. But so being genuine and building that, rapport with people quickly, that's one thing you have to become good at to make a cold call. And the other thing is like the one guy had a really great idea and I'd like to try it. I can't wait to try it. He was like, I know I'm interrupting you. Can I get 27 seconds of your time? And if you don't like what you hear, we can just end the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. It's 27 seconds also throws you a little off kilter. You're like, 27 seconds, right? Like everybody's got 27 seconds, right? 30 seconds, maybe not.
That number.
Yeah, right. So just that in itself was kind of like, and they laughed about that. But
I think you should say 22 seconds. 33 seconds.
But then
drop some master numbers.
Right. Well, I use 22. And we talked about being able to describe quickly what we do, right? So we're narrowing that to tell clients, right?
Yep.
So those are some things. And the other thing was there was one other one in there I really liked. Oh, so how do we get to them before we call them? There's social media, there's email, there's actual physical mail where you mail them something. So your company name hits their desk like 3, 4, 5, 6, 14 times maybe. And then you do a follow-up phone call. By the time they pick that phone up, they've heard your company name, right? And I like that idea. So that goes back to the document we started working on. You and I need to sit down one afternoon and really, what are the benefits of when we give you this? What does it do for you? So whether that be vertical videos for social media, whether that be, the different types of videos you can create for your company. Are you struggling at creating good culture, or at least you have great culture and you want other people to know that are going to come work for you? Do you have a video that explains that? Do you have people in your company that are actually excited about that can share that story? So finding those things that we can market to the companies that we want to work with. And that's what I learned today. So I thought it wasn't a wasted day, but definitely want my list to be done so I can start calling people. You know what I mean? So, or at least a section of it to start failing, because I'm going to fail. It's uncomfortable. I'll get out to cold call people, I think. You know what I mean? I don't know.
It's funny that for you to say that, because I picture you as being super confident and comfortable at doing it.
No, I mean,
but you have told me in the past that, my perspective of whatever it is you're doing with communications could be totally different than what's in your head.
Yeah, there's times where like
you just handle it.
Yes.
Better,
right.
I guess.
It affects me internally differently than it does you. Doesn't mean that I don't get nervous.
Hey Joe, I want you to bring something up as you were talking about cold calling and different marketing tools, and you mentioned mailing stuff out to people. It made me think of your business card. So maybe you could show people that. Do you have it on hand with you?
Oh, I don't. I put my wallet in it.
Is it called OVU?
Yeah. Yes.
I think it's called OVU.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So it's a digital business card with a QR on the back and then a chip reader in there, and you can tap the card. Didn't work tonight, but it has saved me time.
Why didn't it work?
I don't know.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
That was my nose.
Oh, okay.
Nose likes to whistle
I'm not sure why it
sometimes.
didn't work tonight when he asked me for my card. And I didn't
His
want
phone could have been outdated or something.
Yeah, I don't know. And even his card reader wasn't working. But
Or it wasn't
99% of the time, it works great. And so what I decided to do is get away from business cards. And we're going to look at that for the other company too, is to both get us cards for that company. But the QR code, the chip reader, and the phones, it's just so nice. You can set up a profile. It's got all your social media there. And for us, for video, it's got a section where you can have a special page where you upload your video somewhere and have that link there. It's like your commercial for your business, right? So I'd love to see more of our clients like leaning towards this too, because on that card, then they could have their video of whatever they sell.
What's cool about it too is when they scan it, you run it. They just run their phone over it, and it automatically should detect it.
Yeah, they click on it,
and it puts all of your contact information.
Yeah, they can save
into
it.
their contacts.
They open it up, they hit save, and the nice thing about this is it's hooked to my iCloud, right? So it'll be proprietary to wherever email that you want to set it up to, or where that email is going to come in. But for me, it's iCloud.
But not only email, you can connect all your social media,
all the social media, the video, my website. And then also what I can do is like when they send me their contact, there's a part where they write their name, email, and phone number, right?
Yep.
And I get an email when I come home. I click on it, and there's a way I can put that right into my contacts. So you know how many times you take a business card and don't enter it into anything on your computer system or your contacts? I do it. I do it all the time. This eliminates that.
Yep.
I'm already in their phone, right?
Where I'm sure a lot of people, when they get business cards, they just toss them aside and never look at them again unless they're really into your service you're providing or product or whatever it may be. It's
been a great time saver, and it'll cost the cost too. So there's other companies out doing it besides the one you mentioned, right?
Yep.
But it was like $79. You know, a box of cards cost.
So there are other companies that make these.
Yes, absolutely. And
technologies.
I believe every company should be going this way.
Yeah.
It's silly to have a business card anymore.
But they all work the same way, basically.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter.
Very similar, I would imagine. I have
who you buy it from. They're all going to work the same way with everyone's phones.
I would think so. I have not tried the other ones or seen their interface or anything like that. But what a time saver. Even when I'm at like on a shoot, I've done it a few times because I like to have conversations when I do my business, right? And I'll meet somebody. I'm like, you know what? This might be a client. You know what I mean? And swoop, done. I can walk away. I know he or she's got all my social media. They're already clicked to me before I even walked out the door. Yeah. And I didn't have to tell them how to spell my name and, you know, oh no, that's not me. And oh no, wait, it's, you know, whatever, right? Trying to make them find your social media or your website or whatever. So,
I wanted to bring that up. I thought,
it's a nice
piece of technology.
Definitely like it for this year. It was a decision I had made this year.
Yeah. You did go into your graduation shoot earlier, right?
I did. Yeah. Like I said, the outcome was good, but.
So going back to this podcast, it's another way to hold ourselves accountable.
Can I go back to that a little bit about that one client?
Yeah.
So that one client, right? And it comes down to long-term relationships, right? I don't want a client that I do primarily...
The educational client.
Yes.
Correct?
The educational client or any client too, but any client for the most part. I don't want clients where I do one job and we're done. I prefer to have a client that we work with and grow with their business and create content for them as needed long-term. Because the longer we work with somebody, the more efficient we can become getting their message out and understanding what they might not understand about their business and what they need to do message-wise. Not that they're not good at what they do. They don't always know what their message is, right? Or what they should be focused on. And I think we take a lot of time to think about our clients that way. We try, you know what I mean? I think we've gotten better over the last 10 years, right? But this client specifically has grown from, $1,000 to $6,500 to $7,500 a year. And it takes some work, but not a whole lot of work. I mean,
you're saying the business that,
that
you're providing for them, that's what it's bringing.
Yeah, it's bringing about $6,000, $5,000, depending on the year, depending on what's going on.
It's consistent too.
It comes in. It's just like job I go do last night. My 3.
That's just one facet of their organization,
right? And it's less about the specific client it's more, to me, the conversation reason I'm bringing this up to you is having those kind of clients really makes a difference between being able to do this full time or not do it full time, right? So very grateful that we're able to build relationships with people so that those accounts kind of grow and expand. And I'm really looking forward to this next year of finding some more clients on the video end for us to grow and expand, right? Because that doesn't come the first year. It comes the second year and the third year sometime, or the 7th year or the 10th year, right? So I don't know why I wanted to bring that up, but
it feels good to be able to consistently provide whatever service or product it is that you're providing for them, and they keep coming back.
Yeah.
It's rewarding to know, and then you build those relationships. It's not just a one and done where you don't really build much of a relationship. So I think going back to what you're saying is finding ways to build those relationships with customers and continuing an ongoing relationship consistently and producing a product or service that actually works for them.
Right. And so
whether it's from a marketing standpoint or helps them increase their ROI
or their message,
or whatever
whatever that is
looking to accomplish.
Last night the client was asked, do we need to bump the price? And I went, no, I've already figured it out. There was another addition to a product that they wanted. And I said, no, it's like nominal. It's like $27. I'll factor that in somehow with everything. We don't need to readjust anything. And I said, well, if anybody needs headshots or anything like that. And then she stopped. She said, no, another guy. I said, well, that's fine. Another company's doing that. But then she went, you know what? But we have other events going on. I'll let you know. So like at this point I was trying to, because I feel like, and I know they're happy, they've expressed that. So it was like, is there anything else I can create for you? So I asked for that last night, and she started thinking that, no, that might be 6 months from now. But that seed is planted, and I believe that I'll get another shot to go over there to do something else beyond what the product is that I'm producing right now. And I also think that's something you and I have talked about. And you and I stay on the same page about that too, right? So we know where our limitations are. So I don't promise clients when we're with them anything other than what we're capable of doing right now, right? But we do try to inch in and get them to do more. So I just thought that was something that happened this week that I wanted to share.
Yep.
As far as how grateful I am for the account, how it's grown, and what that allows you and I to do in the future for other clients too, and to recognize that and realize that, and how do we grow that account if it's possible.
Yeah, it's totally possible. And I think, like, again, they're going to come back and there's going to be more opportunities presented for sure.
Well, and it gives us a body of work. When you expand, it also gives you a body of work for other people in the industry that are in that same industry. So that's the other thing I'm excited about. Can we find another school that offers the same thing that you and I can go in and do?
Yeah, they're not the only school.
No.
Even if you continue doing that program for that school, there are many other schools that
offer
could have the same thing going on, whether it's one program or multiple programs.
So when we think about leads, and that's really one of the actionable things that you and I are talking about for our business this year. This last week was leads, right? We need more leads, right? We need to understand where else do we want to sell our product to, right?
The numbers game.
Yep. If leads dry up, that's another area we can look at, or maybe we should be looking at that. I don't know, but do something every day and we'll see where that leads us.
Yep. Yeah, I like the conversation we had. You had a lot of great points, Joe.
Thanks.
I think we've covered everything that we wanted to cover today.
I think so.
I think it was a solid episode for our number 10.
We made it 10.
10.
The first one, I didn't even know if we'd make it.
We're not stopping. That's key to this.
The practice ones, I didn't even know if we'd make it to 1.
Accountability and consistency. Now, again, going back to accountability, this podcast is another great catalyst for holding ourselves accountable. We're speaking about our experiences on a weekly basis, on what we're doing, and it kind of it puts that pressure on you. It's
in a good
pressure,
way. Yeah, in a good way. In a good way. So one of the things we failed out this week again I think it's important is we didn't start on remodeling the kitchen for this potential Airbnb and rental.
I think we get over our heads a little bit too, because we do have a lot of work going on with business and this, but yeah, we do. That is one thing that we need to get to. Maybe tomorrow in the afternoon we should go get some paint.
Right. Yeah, we need to start like physically doing something in there.
I shouldn't say maybe. I need to not say maybe and say let's just fucking do it, Joe.
Yeah. Well, and you brought up a good point, the accountability, which is good for us too. It's kind of selfish doing this podcast in a little way, right? So regardless if anybody listens to it or not, it's holding us accountable to keep moving forward on the stuff that we really want to do.
Yep.
So the video, the photography, the rental property, learning new skills on how to get leads, working with the city to get the paperwork done for the rezoning, and whatever else our interests are, right? Like what else are we going to work on? We probably don't even know what we're going to do in 4 months, of course, right? So that whole plan could shift as we start to do more and more, right? So this is kind of helps us with communication, keeps us accountable, and keeps us thinking about what's our goal, right? You said, I love that you're writing everything down. You got kind of an outline. You take the lead on that.
It feels way better and flows smoother than what it was.
Yeah, and it makes us think about this week.
It does. It makes us think about this week and kind of helps us plot out those goals that we need to set for each week. Yeah. So we're but we are setting goals for each week and plotting out each of these podcast episodes kind of
based around those.
Kind of. That's another thing that I got to stop saying is kind of. So
it's based around it's based around
it's going to
moving towards these goals, right? Or
help us move forward and accomplishing these weekly goals.
Yeah.
If we're not accomplishing them and we get on these podcasts on a weekly basis,
what are you going to talk about?
And we're not accomplishing that goal, then we're not being accountable to ourselves or to anybody else.
So you're wasting people's time too.
We're wasting people's time. So we want to try, work on these goals and seeing what works and what doesn't work, figuring out, what am I trying to fucking say here, Joe?
I don't know. I think you're trying to say we're fucking done.
I think I've been talking too much, even though you've been talking a little more than me.
Well, I kind of noticed that's been a balance, but
but it keeps us on track to achieving our goals each week.
Right.
And we will hold ourselves accountable. And we're going to be open and honest with what we've done during the week. Right. And like Joe was being very honest with him feeling like he didn't accomplish what he had set out to accomplish.
Right.
I feel like I could have gotten more videos done this week. But I'm doing videos every day.
You are. And one of I know we got to end this soon, but one of the things like I've noticed since we've been working together is you said that helps having somebody else in the house too.
It does.
Or the office. Well, we're working out of the house, but like I've noticed that we both been doing more things daily every day. At least something is getting done every day, where before we might have been working and we'd be like, it might go 5-6 days, nothing happens.
It's good to have somebody to feed off of.
Yeah.
And kind of keep each other going and holding each other accountable.
Well,
you're known to, when we get up in the morning, to bring up things that we need to accomplish. And that's important.
Right. Well,
so accountability. Keyword for today is accountability.
Accountability and taking action.
Taking action.
So, and we are. So, and I hope people are doing that in their lives.
Yep.
Because I know one of the things that makes you feel better is that you're working towards something, right? Whether that be, it doesn't even have to be a business. Like, is there something?
Yeah,
I don't know. Like, is there something that you enjoy doing around your house?
Life.
Like, I don't know. Could be a woodworking.
And it's
project.
not easy.
Could be
to hold yourself accountable and stay consistent. We know that we've had our times where, all of us have, to where we weren't holding ourselves accountable and accomplishing what we needed to.
Well, and exactly. But I'm trying to make a point too. Is like having something to look forward to do. You know what I mean? And doing that consistently and enjoying something. So whether that be like mountain biking or if you're a birder or a hiker or somebody that does something with wood, and
That's
you
what I
don't do it for full time. Like, there's a ton of things.
Do it because you want to do it.
If you like to go fishing, maybe you learn how to make your own lures. I don't know, like whatever you're into, like do something consistently so you have enjoyment in life. Like, there's so much you can do on this planet, man. And just sitting around scrolling on a phone or looking at a TV and that's all you do, to me, that there's other things to life, right? So some people go volunteer. They're really good at volunteering, helping other people. So staying actionable in your life, I think, is really what I hope people are doing.
Yep.
So
even if it's going for a walk to the beach to watch the sunset.
I do that all the time in the summer, 2 to 3 hours a day. Some guy said, "Do you have a job?" "Yeah, I have a job." "Do you work?" "Yes, I work."
Well, everyone, thanks for tuning in to our 10th episode. We're going to continue this on a weekly basis. High five. We missed our last high five, last episode.
We had 9, one short.
If anyone has anything they want to say, just leave a comment or reach out, share your thoughts on your experiences.
Yep. We look forward to learning from you and hearing some feedback from you.
Absolutely. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. That's what they all say on YouTube.
That's what they say. I don't know. Whatever, right? Let's just move forward.
So yeah, we'll have something new for you next week. And hopefully you keep listening. We don't bore you to death. And thanks for listening to the Our Vision podcast. And we're going to sign out. Thanks, y'all.
Keep doing something every day.
Peace out.